Hey there guys, how's it going? Rowan here, bringing you another fresh take. In this week's episode we're going to be looking at bread and butter. So simple, so beautiful. It's going to take nearly 3 hours for us to do this. I'm going to go through the bread and I'm also going to go through the butter with you. So we're going to start off with the bread. So we need 500 grams of strong white flour. You can substitute in 200 grams of wholemeal flour, but we're just going to be making a basic white bloomer loaf here. We need 10 grams of Maldon salt. Maldon instead of table salt I find has a smoother finish to it. We need 14 grams of fresh yeast or 7 grams of dried active yeast and 300 grams of room temperature water. And that's it. That's all the ingredients we're going to need to make the bread. In fact, we need only one other ingredient for this whole recipe. It's just cream. So we're going to start by putting in the flour into a freestanding mixing bowl. We're going to put the salt to one side of the bowl. And the yeast to the other side of the bowl. Salt will kill the yeast, so don't let them touch at this stage. Obviously it's a different story once they're in the mixer together because they'll have flour particles between them. So we're just going to move this to the freestanding mixer using a dough hook attachment. I'm going to gradually add the water, keep it mixing for about 5 to 7 minutes until it forms a nice tight dough. You'll see it's very elastic and very smooth and velvety. It will all come away from the side of the bowl. I'm just going to tip this out onto a clean work surface and just work it a little bit. No need to add flour to your surface at this stage. I'm just stretching and folding it over just to get a feel for the dough. And I'm going to pull it into a tight ball. And into a lightly floured bowl to prove for about 45 minutes to an hour until doubled in size. A great place to prove your dough is inside your oven, turned to the lowest temperature you possibly can. So while that's proving, we're going to make the butter, which is so surprisingly simple. We need 500 ml of double cream and 5 grams of Maldon salt, and that's it. We're going to put our double cream into our mixer, prepare for dramatic sound effect. We're going to put this on high speed, putting a cover over the top because once the curd and whey splits, the whey sprays up everywhere. Just going to keep this going until you can clearly see it split. I'm going to turn it off, prepare a sieve for straining this off. And as you can see, the curd and the whey have split, creating our butter and our buttermilk. You can separate this off and keep the buttermilk. You can use it in other recipes, but we're only interested in the butter here. So fun fact for you about the butter. The reason why it's yellow instead of white like the cream is because as you break down the cream, it's higher fat content and shows the yellow pigment from the grass and the flowers that the cows eat. So what we're going to do next is we're just going to mix it with some ice water. This will help extract the rest of the buttermilk. The more buttermilk, the more whey that's in the butter, the faster it will go rancid. So you want to try and remove as much as possible. See it as just like washing the butter of the buttermilk. So again, we're going to pass this off. This liquid that's coming off of it isn't really anything, so we're just going to throw this away. And then we're going to repeat the process again with the butter and the ice water. Trying to get off as much as you can from the whisk. You're just pouring enough water in just to cover the butter slightly. And this time we're going to pass it through some cheesecloth or muslin. Really thought that was going to work. Clearly not. Can use our hands instead. Using clean hands for this because you don't want to add any bacteria. It's going to make sure all of that liquid is passed through. Then you're going to take it and you're going to squeeze as much liquid as you can out of it. Again, any liquid left in the butter is probably going to make it go rancid faster than usual. So we're just going to take our cheesecloth or muslin. I'm going to place the butter in the middle. We're going to take our 5 grams of Maldon salt and sprinkle that through. The reason we're doing this is so you have nice flakes of salt running through the butter. If you were to put this in at the beginning, you would have lost the majority of it in the whey. The best butter you would have ever tasted would have been packed full of salt. Salt is flavour. We're just going to fold it up and press it tightly. It's a good habit to put this in the fridge at this point and keep it overnight so it drains out all the liquid. We're going to take the butter out. And this is purely for aesthetic purposes. We're just going to shape it into a block. And place it in some greaseproof paper, wrap it, and this will keep in your fridge for about a week. How easy was that? So back to the bread. It's proved, doubled in size. We're just going to lightly flour our surface. Too heavy because you don't want to incorporate too much flour into the dough. And tip the dough out onto it. You'll already be able to see how much area this is from the original dough. Just going to say now that I'm disappointed in my folding skills for this bloomer. I'll do another video at some point of how to fold the bread properly. We're going for a tight crumb for this, so I'm just going to pull it tightly, trying to get a nice shape, elongating it slightly so we get that traditional bloomer shape. Dusting with a bit more flour if you're finding it starting to stick, pulling it towards you and keeping it tucked under. Just going to transfer it to a lightly floured baking tray. You want quite a heavy bottomed baking tray. Just carefully lifting it over, making sure that it keeps that shape. I'm just going to cover this and prove it again for about 45 minutes. As you can see, it's doubled in size, if not more. Potentially overproofed this one slightly. We're just going to spray it with water and dust it with flour. This gives it the traditional bloomer style, medium light floured crust. Using a sharp knife or a razor, we're just going to score the top. You can do this however you want. Ideally doing a better job than I've done here. Scoring the bread helps the bread open up as it proves and rises. So we're going to bake this in a preheated oven at 220 degrees for about 10 minutes. Then we're going to drop the temperature to 180 degrees and cook it for a further 20 minutes. A good tip to get a nice thick brown crust is to place a tray of water in the bottom of the oven when you put the bread in, or spray the oven generously with water. If you want to check if it's definitely cooked, give the bottom a little tap. Should sound hollow on the inside. I'm just going to leave this to cool down on a cooling rack. I know it's tempting to dive straight in with a knife, but the bread will still be cooking for probably about another hour, hour and a half after it comes out of the oven. Something about the smell of fresh bread that is just the best smell in the world. A couple of slices of freshly made bread, your fresh butter. To me, there is nothing better. Cheers for watching, guys. For more, follow me on Instagram at Rum and Rolo, and don't forget to subscribe, comment and like on these videos. This has been Fresh Take.